I remember going down to the Super Bowl, and I'm gonna spare you the details. I was with my cousins. But when I tell you, I can't tell you how mad I was when I spent $5,000 that weekend, and I was livid, livid, not because of the 5,000, but because I was $5,000 less in my pocket. It was the point of I got less money now. I gotta save this, and that's the first thing that I had to and still have to battle every day is that scarcity mindset. And because and I don't think that's something that you just have. I don't think most people just have. You got to learn that. That's got to be developed. And so even playing as a professional athlete, there's a lot of ball players that don't have financial literacy because you make too much money.
Yeah, man, I think that that's a big issue in the sports world. It still is. That
Still is.
you hear a lot of athletes making all this money, and then all of a sudden they come out 10 years later and they're broke, and
Mhm.
because they don't have the financial literacy, they don't have the guidance.
Mhm.
And you speak about scarcity mindset, and I want to touch on that for a minute because I think it's
Okay.
so important to have the opposite of the abundance
Mhm.
mindset, right?
Mhm.
And what first off, before we go into how you shifted that, what were some of the circumstances and conditions that
Mm.
you created because of that scarcity mindset?
Man, let me tell you something, bro. That fed into my relationships. Let's starting with my marriage. Okay, what that scarcity mindset does, it now makes you afraid. First of all, made afraid for you to make a mistake. Okay, because if I make this mistake, all the ship's gonna sink. You become afraid to ask your spouse or to approach your spouse about things because if you do, all hell's gonna break loose, and we're not gonna be able to get this moment back.
Yeah.
You're afraid to spend money, too much money on the kids for
Mhm.
for the equipment. You start going, let me get this instead of the quality. You're going to the store and you're dumbing down the quality of the food that you put in your body. Man, we was eating well, we was eating Little Caesars every night. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about, hey, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Bro, bro, this is bringing back so many. Man, I remember I had the whole family. I had the whole family go on a fast, bro. We went on a whole day fast, and because I had the money. So man, we need to go on a fast. I made it a spiritual thing. It was like, nah, I
Oh
just
man.
got the money. But I had the whole family fasting. And then what happened, boy, we was all waiting till like 12 a.m. We was all up in the morning. Like, oh, the kids is like struggling and stuff. And what do we go get after the fast? What you think we got?
Little Caesars.
Little Caesars.
Pizza, pizza.
No, the food didn't even change. The food, it was just one day of saving money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they had the $5 pizzas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
that's the crazy part about you. You play scared,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
you can't play scared.
No.
And that's something in the game of sports and life, but especially sports. If I step up to the plate, man, and I'm afraid to strike out, I'm gonna strike out. I got a lot of strikeouts on my record that shouldn't be on there, not because I ain't good enough, but because of the way I was thinking. I was playing
Yeah.
safe. So
Mm.
that thing plays into every arena of your
It
life.
sure does, man. Scared money don't make money, man.
It may not.
Scared action don't take action. You know what I
No,
mean?
man.
So, all right. So now, what was the aha moment that got you to shift away from? You know what, man? This scarcity mindset ain't gonna work. I'm not gonna grow this way. I
Yeah,
gotta, I gotta shift that paradigm.
yeah. Like you said, number one, awareness. I got to be aware of it. I got to understand. Scared.
Mm,
I can be because remember, as a man, we don't like to be vulnerable. So that number one, we talked about vulnerability,
mm,
um, expressing, "Hey, this is an issue to me. I have to deal with that because I can't get help with this if I don't deal with it." And that brings up a good point because I remember the first time I actually had to go on. I filed for unemployment the year before we got married,
mm,
right? And I remember this was that whole transition, to answer your question, a transition. I tried to file for unemployment that next time. My wife was wanting me going on unemployment, and something in my heart was like, nope, not this time.
Mm.
Nope, you ain't doing that. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And I felt like that was God telling me, nope, it's time to grow out of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Time to grow out of that. And so I did not, she wanted me to file. I said, nope, I'm not doing it this time. So I had to be intentional, right? Myron Golden, he put awareness, then intention. I had to be intentional and disrupt, because disruption follows intention.
Yes,
I had to
sir.
disrupt my old patterns. I had to disrupt that old pattern. And my next move was now I had to get around people that were that had to put myself in an environment. So me contacting Terry, an entrepreneur, was a first step. Me being in that men's group was another step. I now had to be, so that way when I get down, I got people I can call to now keep me up. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because again, it didn't get better right away. It didn't get better right away. I talk about all the time. Roots grow down before they grow up.
That's right. Come on,
So
man.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And they grow down by
Preach
themselves.
it, brother.
Hey, I can preach now. I ain't gonna preach, but I can preach it if I want to. I can preach it if I want. But that's the reality. It grows down before they grow up. Again, we didn't understand this at the time, but I'm looking back on it. I had to. But what was I doing when I was down? That's the issue. That's the issue. And last thing I'll say about that, this is a reference to. See, now you're getting me in that mode. When I was riding bikes, I do spin class, right? And what I realized, this guy, he kept beating me on a bike, but he kept beating me because of how he rested. When it's time to rest, when we're riding and they give us a rest period, he would always stay up on his bike and keep riding. Wasn't as fast, but he slowed down the pace, but he'd stay on his bike. I would sit down. So while he was down, while I was in his resting period, he was still being productive. If that makes sense. He wasn't sitting down like the rest of us. He was still.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to go full speed, we get it back again. But his down times were better than our down times. When he was down, he wasn't all the way down.
He's keeping the pace.
And even if he wasn't keeping a pace, he was keeping a pace.
Right. Keeping a pace.
We were shutting down on a bike and he was keeping a pace. You keep doing that over 45 minutes. He's extending that gap little by the time you look up, he's got a whole nother mile on you. Not because of how we were when we were both up, but because how he was when we were both down.
Yes. Yeah. It's what you do in those times when nobody's looking at you. That's where the growth is. That's
when the real growth. We all get hot, bro. In baseball, we all get hot. We all have streaks where we get hot. But how are your slumps?
Yep.
How are your slumps when you're doing bad? If my slump is 5 for 20 and yours is over 20, that's a big deal.
Yeah. That's so powerful, man. I'm glad you brought that up because the audience needs to hear that. Because the life ain't gonna be a straight line to success. Shit's gonna get fucked up. There's gonna be bumps in the road. It's how you navigate through those bumps in the road. That's where the growth is. That's where the magic happens.